Charlie, can't leave you people alone. I go away for a few days to Chicago and Milwaukee to give a few speeches. They were great. And what happens while I'm away? She comes into the belly of the beast. Yes, Olivia Chow, the widow of Jack Layton, of course, NDP icon and former socialist councillor and MP, who is now running to be mayor of Tirana, came to Sun News. Now, having said that, she came in to be interviewed by Warren Kinsella, who is one of, if not Chow's main communications and campaign managers in her race to be mayor of the largest city in Canada. So it was hardly going to be, well, blood and guts and screaming.
Here's the front page of the Toronto Sun here today. So Olivia is taking over the Sun in more ways than one today. So she's doing okay. We wanted to thank you very much for coming in today and answering these questions. And let us know what you think.
Warren is an old friend of mine. He says that he asked the hardest questions he could think of. The great Christy Blatchford, also an old friend of mine and someone for whom I have colossal respect, disagrees and thinks it was a farce and it lowered the tone of journalism. Well, come on, just hold on. Hold on one mainstream media moment, guys. Come on now. We have 4 primetime shows here and as many news shows, all composed of dozens of different segments. That's hundreds of interviews a week, thousands over a few months. In one of them, just one, we allow a regular contributor and valued colleague to conduct an interview that is obviously a little different. But it's hardly a daily event, is it? Good Lord, it's not even a yearly event. I, myself, conduct interviews every day here, and some of them are quite confrontational. You know that. Well, of course they do. It's the nature of the job. I'm also apparently a rather difficult person, and I managed to find a way to argue with pretty much everyone, Conservatives as well as Liberals. But can we please also get some perspective here and be honest about all this? Have you not watched the CBC and the other networks? Here's just one example, and there are so many more. This is Peter Mansbridge setting up an interview with his ex-wife, Wendy Mesley, looking, by the way, at the wrong camera, where she repeats unfounded allegations and rumours about the Conservative Party and Minister Jason Kenney. There is no foundation for this report. It's appalling journalism. Here's the intro to it.
There are allegations that one of the candidates appears to have had special access to the Minister of Immigration. Wendy Mesley's been digging into this story. Wendy.
That's right, Peter. You know, normally, if you have trouble getting a visa for a family member, you turn to your riding MP for help. All MPs have a special direct line to the minister's office. But we've learned that in the South Asian community of Brampton, Ontario, people seem to believe the unelected Conservative candidate has special access.
What? Evidence, please? No? None at all? Oh, dear. On a lighter note, have you ever seen George Stroumboulopoulos, lovely fella, bless him and all that, giving softball after softball questions to left-wing and Liberal interviewees? There's plenty of evidence for that on YouTube. Have you ever seen Stephen Lewis, for example? Stephen Lewis asked a tough, critical or challenging question ever on the CBC or even CTV? Hey, when it comes to the Middle East, the disdain towards Israel from mainstream media and in the CBC in particular, well, it's palpable. Here's a leading Jewish activist in Toronto discussing his encounter with the state broadcaster.
It's disappointing when a reporter gives into propaganda and actually believes the anti-Israel propaganda. I was just asked a question, what about the so-called hundreds of thousands of people who have been killed by the Israelis? That's a question that was just posed by the national CBC reporter. And I answered her that it's propaganda. This doesn't happen. And there's freedom of movement and freedom of religion in Israel. And that does not happen in Islamic countries.
Now, were her words exactly hundreds of thousands of people killed in Israel?
Her words were hundreds of thousands killed in Israel.
It's no surprise at all. But there are 2 other aspects to mainstream media censorship and bias. The first is the weighting of panels, where the political dynamic and equation is slanted left, with the Conservative representative being a red Tory, a Hugh Segal or a Joe Clark. Decent men, but neither speaking for the genuine Conservative right in Canada. The other game is that of what I call it disappearing people. What I mean is, with the other networks, they simply don't cover an issue or invite a guest. Now, I don't want to make this too personal because I'm irrelevant here, but experience does teach us quite a lot. One of my recent books, Why Catholics Are Right, it is superb, do buy copies. No, but seriously, it was on the bestseller list in Canada for 10 weeks. Loath as I am to self-promote, 10 weeks on the bestseller list is pretty impressive. We sold 50,000 copies. 8 editions now. The book's in Polish, Spanish. It's published in the UK. In the US, it received rave reviews. Believe it or not, in major publications. I was all over the media, but the CBC, a couple of miles from my front door, refused to have me on. It's not about me, it's about the issue. I've got friends at the CBC, and believe me, they told me this was a deliberate act of bias. Good Lord, I was once told by a producer at CBC Radio they didn't want me on because I was too good an advocate for views with which they disagreed. Precise words from that man, but not as grammatically accurate, I should think. So, one interview on Sun News where 2 lefties chat to one another. I mean, big deal. It was fun more than anything and was followed by several Sun News personalities taking on and criticising Olivia Chow, including me. So, spare me the false dignity, the shocked sensibilities, the ethical angst. Come on, we're more honest here than pretty much anywhere else, and people talk about us. That's what really annoys some of our critics, isn't it? People are talking about us.